Hi, I'm Serotonin, and this is my Professor Putricide 25-man walkthrough. For this boss, you'll need 3 tanks, however, you're only going to be using one of them for the first 2 phases, and then preferably 5, 6, or 7 healers, and a mix of ranged and melee DPS. Positioning for this fight really isn't too hard. You're going to be going to one end of the room to the other depending upon which slime is coming out. At all times, the tank needs to stay in range of healers. But otherwise, make certain that before a slime comes out that you stay away from that center area, because otherwise you might get targeted and then you might not be able to get out in time. But otherwise you're just going to be going back and forth across the room, and there's several things that you need to pay attention to, but otherwise it's really not too hard. In phase 3, it's kind of like fighting Lady Vosh in SSD. Eventually, the room will fill up with slime and you can no longer continue, so it's like a soft enrage. The key component to Phase 1 and Phase 2 is the mutated abomination. One of the off-tanks will be getting in the vehicle, or the abomination, and you have 3 main abilities. The first one is Eat Ooze. You can slume the slime pulls that Professor Putricide throws out. Mutated Slash will increase damage to Professor Putricide by 4%, stacks to 5. And Regurgitate Ooze, which is extremely important. This will slow the oozes down that you come out. The important thing to remember is that you need to slow ooze, eat ooze, and then put the debuff on. You can put the debuff on Professor Putricide when you're eating the slime pulse, so that's a pretty handy tip. Alright, another key component to Phase 1 and 2 are the oozes. The first one is the volatile ooze. It's the green one. It will target a random player and root them in place. You'll be able to see exactly who it targets because I don't know what it is, like some kind of slime trail or whatever to the person, so you'll know. It will do 7k damage to that person every second, and you need to group up on that person because once it reaches its target, it will do 7k damage to everyone around it. So group up to spread out the damage, and it'll knock you back, which gives you a little bit of time to take it down. And finally, there's the gaseous bloat. It's the orange one. It will target a random person. It does 1.5k damage to the target every 2 seconds. And it'll also follow the player around and it will put stacks of bloat on the person. If it reaches its target, it will expunge gas, which damages everyone in range of it, and it really hurts. So just run straight back away from it and hope the range DPSs it down in time. Alright, now for the Professor's abilities. Remember that these abilities will continue on to Phase 3. Phase 1 abilities are 100 to 80%. The first one is Slime Puddle. It does 4.5k damage to anyone in it, so just get out. The abomination needs to eat this. Unstable Experiment, it will spawn the green or the orange ooze. It always goes green, orange, green, orange, green, orange. His next ability happens right before Phase 2 and Phase 3, so he casts it 80% and 35%. It stuns everyone, you're immune to damage, and it lasts for 20 seconds. However, mages and rogues can actually get out of this and start DPSing him down, or if you went into the phase with an ooze up, they can take that out as well, so that's very handy to know. Alright, on to Phase 2, which is 80 to 35%. He will put out, I think it's 3 choking gas bombs. They do 6.5k damage to anyone around them. It reduces your chance to hit by 75%, and after 20 seconds they will do an explosion. This does 20k damage to anyone in 10 yards of them, and reduces your chance to hit by 75%. So tanks, just make certain as soon as those bombs go off, you move him. His next ability is Malleable Goo. It will shoot goo at random ranged members. It does 15k damage to anyone it hits, and it slows your attack or casting speed by 200% for 20 seconds. They don't actually follow you, it's just where you're standing when he throws them out, so make certain you move. And finally, his Phase 3 abilities. This is 35% to dead. He will put out Mutated Plague. This will damage the entire raid every 3 seconds, and it stacks. So it exponentially hits people for more and more. this will heal Putricide for 500,000 if a tank dies or the stack gets off of him. So the tanks, what you want to do is, since you have 3 tanks, it's suggested that you do 2 stacks, 2 stacks, 2 stacks, then 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4 until you get him down. And finally, he has mutated strength. It increases Putricide's damage and attack speed by 50%. Remember that all of his abilities will carry through until phase 3. That includes the slime poles, which will continue to spread because you no longer have the abomination to eat them. Alright, now to actually show you the fight. I'm not going to be able to show you every second of this because it is a long fight. We're talking like 15 minutes. But for the most part, right now we are just in phase 1. So there's really not too much you need to worry about. Just make certain if you are the abomination that you immediately go to those slime poles and start getting those taken care of. Because you're going to need as much of the energy as possible to slow the slime. There will always be a green slime. Make certain you get to the other side of the room. And the tank needs to make certain to have Professor Putricide, you know, relatively close to people. If you'll notice, the green slime just targeted somebody. You can see exactly where he's going. And range, you have a couple seconds to get to the slime, so that way you can get it down. If you'll notice, it's going to die really quick. And as soon as you get that green slime down, immediately run to the other side of the room for the orange
Stop
slime.
on Putricide.
Once you get the orange one out, it's best just to run. There's a little corner over here as far away as you can from that, the orange one. If you'll notice, the orange one comes out. It takes a couple seconds before it gets to target somebody, so you have, you know, those couple of seconds to DPS it. If you'll notice, it just targeted somebody. That person will grow in size and you'll get a mark. Just make certain to stay away from the orange slime, and you're good to go for this phase.
Alrighty. Get us out.
If you'll notice, we are approaching 80%. At this point, right now, mages pop your invis, or rogues do your cloak. And if you'll notice, I got it! Woo! So you now have a couple seconds to DPS Professor Putricide, while everyone else just watches. Yay! So once you finish with that, once he gets up, there's a couple things you need to remember about this phase. You're going to have the malleable goo, and you're also going to have the bombs. Tanks, make certain as soon as you see those... Okay, it's 2 bombs. I was mistaken. 2. As soon as you see those 2 bombs, move Professor Putricide away. Don't wait until it explodes. Get away from it. Also, ranged, if you should have the malleable goo target you, make certain that you move away. It's not going to follow you. All that it's going to do is hit where you were. So make sure you move. Now we are on phase 3. Now remember, you're going to continue to have the bombs. You're going to have the malleable goos. You're also going to have the slime puddles. The slime puddles will continue to grow during this phase. So that is pretty much the hard enrage or soft enrage or whatever you want to call it. He does have an enrage timer, but like you're never going to hit it unless you had a really, really bad phase 2. But at this point, the tanks are switching off at 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4. And the key to this fight, because this was a rather bad bad try for us. I mean, we do get him down in this. However, you'll notice as long as the tanks survive, you're fine. You can still get him down. And if you'll notice the ranged, we're kind of like
coming up.
I'm a little bit in front of him, but you don't want to be too much. If you'll notice, I just got the malleable goo. You can see it flying through the air, and as long as you're away from it, you're fine. But otherwise, at this point, it's just avoiding the goo, and tanks, you need to move him at the wall. Just keep moving him. You don't need to move him too much. I mean, for the most part, you want to keep him in one spot, unless, of course, you notice the slime puddle starting to get too close.
Oh, guys, Hazard.
But otherwise, yeah, that's the fight. There's not too much you need to worry about. Just, you can bleed DPS. Because, of course, Paladin tanks can do an insane amount of damage. So, just make certain to keep the tanks up. If you do manage to lose, you you know, most of your DPS, you might be able to get him down. So the major point is just to get him down before the room fills up with the ooze. Because if you'll notice, like, the whole room is almost covered at this point. And if you'll notice at this point, we keep bleeding people. However, the tanks stay up, so a couple seconds from now, we will still win. So yeah, that's the fight, and good luck. Have fun, and I'll see you in my next video.
40K.
Bye.
Oh my god.
That was horrible.
Tanks are superior.
Our DPS